But the other interpretation of when Christ will return and what happens when Christ returns, there are there are things in the scriptures and Bible prophecy that are very clear. They're cutting, they're like cookie cutter clear. And you just do a casual reading, that's it. That's what it is. Christ returns with his angels. He comes in power and glory, and he defeats these kingdoms that are evil, and he establishes a new kingdom that's good and perfect, and where there's no crime or no sickness, no death, no disease, no. It's going to be perfect, like it was in the very beginning of man's history, the very beginning of creation, when there was no ailments or things that men had to be fearful of. It was a perfect society, and there was perfect love and harmony and peace, and this is the message of the gospel, that eventually that will happen. There'll be perfect harmony and peace, and it's not going to be of man origin, it's going to be from God. But so others interpret the rapture as happening in mid or after this tribulation that's supposed to happen. But it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual war. It's actually inspired by demons and fallen angels who still have a vendetta against God for kicking them out of heaven. Because they got kicked out of heaven, a third of the angels, and the devil, Lucifer, the morning star, Satan. They were cast out of heaven because they tried to usurp God's authority. How they thought they could pull that off is beyond me. I don't get how they could even conspire of such a thing. Ridiculous. God is powerful, and angels are created beings. They're subjects of God, and God is spirit. Who can overthrow a spirit? You can't. You can't use human weapons of any kind, not even spiritual weapons, like angelic weapons. God is non-corporeal. He doesn't have a physical body. He can't throw arrows at him and spears, bow and arrows or bullets or whatever. God's indestructible. So God just, it says in the book of Psalms, it says that Psalms chapter 2, that God, the Spirit, just laughs at man's vain efforts to try to defeat God, or try to try to usurp his authority. It's impossible. God, people have flesh. We have flesh. We're destructible. But God is indestructible. God is spirit. He's not the leaves. He's not the trees. God is not the dirt. He's not a stone. God is not a tree. God is not the sky. God is not the moon. God is not the clouds. God is a spirit. He created those things. And, maybe not these per se, because some of these are man-made and they're bred in a laboratory, through chemical engineers. They can duplicate. We've mastered the genetic sequence of animals, plants, and humans, so we can make these human beings, and we can make living entities. Even in the botanical realm, we can make them in a laboratory in test tubes. But the original creation wasn't made by man. Man was made by the Creator. And the original trees, if there are still any original trees still on earth, God made those. But he made them with seeds in them, with a genetic code that can reproduce after their own kind. So God has pre-programmed that in all species and entities and all things that we see around us. So it's pretty cool that God is who he is. Obviously, God is merciful because I'm able to exist. I'm able to function. I'm able to do things. I have a certain level of free will that he's given me. But he also has placed limits on humanity. And occasionally throughout history, he has enforced those rules. He has overlooked some of those commands. He hasn't overlooked them, but he's been long patient. He's been extremely patient with certain cultures throughout history when they've acted in defiance of God or